Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Well, good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant. It is episode number 17, as we've had a little debate off air to make sure we got that one right. And the date is 13th of February 2023, a day before Valentine's Day. So I am your host for today, Mr. Aaron Patrick, and with me is my co-host, Johann. Johann, how has your week been?
Good morning, Aaron. Yeah, it was a busy week last week. I was all over the place. Trying to find any time to even make a coffee last week was pretty challenging at one point. But it ended on a really positive meeting at QuickBooks head office with yourself and loads of other great faces and people. So yeah, it was all worth it in the end.
It certainly was. It was a great little end to the week, wasn't it? Oh, well, towards the end of the week, should we say?
Oh, yeah.
And we'll talk about that in due course. Remember, this show is all about yourself as the wonderful listeners of Ask the Accountant. So do make sure that you drop us a question if you're listening live, just like Ashley is there. Hi, Ashley. Great way to start the week. Thank you for joining, and I'm sure there's plenty of us out there as well. If you do have a question, though, just drop the question into the comment box and we'll talk about it live on air. But if you have a question for further down the line, or if you're thinking about it and you listen to this podcast later down the line, then don't forget we've put our feedback/question post in the feedback as well, or in the link as well, and you should have the opportunity then to be able to drop us some questions for next week. And we've got Rachel there as well. Hello, Rachel. Good morning to you too. Right, so let's figure out what topics we've got today. So let's figure out what we learned from QuickBooks. What was the official title? Is it QuickBooks Accountants Day? Celebration of Accountants?
QuickBooks Accountants Council.
QuickBooks Accountants Council. So we'll give us some feedback on that one. We've got the fact that accounting firms are doubling down on school recruits. What could that mean for the industry? And we've also got potentially, we'll talk about some mid-market software coming down the line as well. So we've got some great chats to talk about. And then to finish off the show today, we thought we'd have a bit of fun. We'll figure out what OpenGT or ChatGPT thinks that accountants should have for Valentine's Day. So, I mean, how long you got left? You got what, a couple of hours still to go? So maybe this will save your day and you can thank us later in the comment section.
Plenty of time to sort Valentine's Day out if you've not done anything for it like I.
Exactly, and hopefully we can help. We've got some great comments coming through already. Hello, Merlin there. Hello, how's it doing? And Dylan's asked a really good question, but what we're going to do is save that question, if you don't mind, Dylan, till the end of the show. All right, main topic of the day. Main topic we want to talk about is our little trip to London. So I think you should just give us your story of how you got there. Yours was a bit of an epic tale, if I'm honest, when you think about the travel you've done, the distance you've done, etc., etc. So you want to give a bit of a breakdown of your story of the day, and then we can get into kind of what we learned and everything else from it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So yeah, my day started at 5:30 in the morning for a meeting that started at midday. So being based in Edinburgh, I had to get myself down to London. So I got the train down, which is 4 and a bit hours. It's nice and direct. And you know what? I get so much work done on the train when it's not crowded. And funnily enough, the 7 o'clock train to London from Edinburgh is quite quiet. So not many people are that mad to get on the train that early.
And wasn't it a fancy solution on the train? Wasn't there some sort of QR code system or something?
Oh, yeah. The levels of service on LNER are just fantastic. Like, you've got a comfortable seat. No one sat next to me. Quiet carriage. So I'm sat there doing my work, and I'm so efficient now on working on trains. I don't even get up to get my coffee. So I scan their little QR code thing and order the coffee to to my seat. I mean, that's in normal class. That's not even in first class or anything.
When in first, oh my days.
That's it. Like, I'm sat there thinking, why would I justify paying for first class an extra £100 when I can do it from here? So yeah, did that. Got quite a lot of work done that morning, to be fair. And then jumped on the Victoria line, spent the afternoon at QuickBooks, and then managed to get back for my train at 7 o'clock at night, which was the last train back. I managed to get onto it with 7 minutes to spare. So only for it to sit there for 10 minutes because they couldn't find a fault on the train. So after 10 minutes, someone had the genius idea of turning it off and turning it back on again, and that fixed it. So we were off on our way. So I got home about half midnight. So a nice 18-hour day to really hammer home the effort required for an afternoon meeting at QuickBooks head office. But I don't resent it. I don't regret it. It was an absolutely fantastic afternoon. There were some really great people in that room, both from QuickBooks and from the accounting industry. QuickBooks did a really good job there of getting some well-known faces and not so well-known faces, but people that have got some fantastic views and opinions on things into the room to help guide them on what they want to do in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing, wasn't it? We both were kind of, it came a bit of a surprise, or not a surprise, but it was a bit of a shock to the system, wasn't it, in terms of just the timing of it all? Because I think we both forgot that this was an event that should have happened. I think it was November time, wasn't it? That was then pushed back. And
it was scheduled for International Accountants Day originally.
Exactly.
But due to all the train strikes and tube strikes, they decided we'd rather deliver it properly with everyone there by postponing it, rather than doing it to a few people that could just about fight their way through into London. Exactly.
But the whole event was really well done. It was a focus on accountants first and giving us the opportunity not just to sit in front of an auditorium and being talked at for 2 hours plus or whatever it was going to be. It gave us an opportunity to actually, we joked it felt a bit like speed dating, didn't we? We were given the opportunity to go to individual booths. Each of those booths had various topics on. So one of them was new innovations. One of them was all about Pro Advisor portal, things like that. And then the idea was that as we went around, we were given 10 minutes on each one. It didn't work like that. We were too busy talking to the rest of the group. But the idea was that we could then go around those different booths, actually talk to people who were involved in maybe that side of the product, or give us an opportunity to give proper feedback to there. And it worked really well. Now, we unfortunately can't talk about every aspect that was there because there's a few things that will be announced during QuickBooks Connect, which is less than a month away now. And we don't want to steal the fun on that one, because trust us, let's build this hype train up. There are some things that are going to be announced that we think is going to be really, really important to the industry. So we're really, really excited to be able to talk about that in more detail.
And what's more interesting is a comment that got made by an employee of QuickBooks at the end of the day, where they'd actually pulled some of the things they were going to show us on the day, the night before, because they realized not everyone that was in that room was under a non-disclosure agreement. So if we've only seen the things that they're happy for us to talk about in theory to the public, and then not only is there a lot to be announced on QuickBooks Connect, but there's potentially even more than we know about right now. So yeah, there's no fear of going to this conference in March and there being no real juicy topics to cover and no real big moments of product release or anything. Like, they've got a hell of a day packed in, and I'm now sat questioning, is one day enough for it all?
That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah, definitely 100%. But let's talk about a little things that we can talk about. So one of the ones that, and we can only kind of give clues towards it, but one of the things they talked about was gamification, wasn't it? And giving us the accountants, because one of the things that was really impressive, and I'm really liking the fact of, is that they've changed their mindset, or at least they're telling us they've changed their mindset in terms of, we're not just going to be focused on the end consumer, which was a big part of what QuickBooks was for the last couple of years. but they're refocusing back on the accountants and trying to put them in the forefront and give them a bit more of a say, which for us is absolutely brilliant. You know, gives us the opportunity to give that feedback, as we've said. And one of their kind of ways of showcasing this is this whole gamification of the accountants area, basically giving us the opportunity to, you know, get points, get prizes, give us the opportunity to, you know, maybe have a bit of competitive edge to some of our, you know, peers. What did you think to all this? Yeah, and what was your opinion on the whole thing?
I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, if you look at the example, so Dex, aka Receipt Bank, they have a gamified option as a community base for Dex users. So you can go in there, and if you read their articles, you get a few points. If you share that article on your social medias, you get some points. If you reach certain tariffs, like certain levels of number of clients using the product, certain number of documents being published, etc., you get loads of points. And then you can use those points in the in their gift shop, if you will. And we were chatting to Ariana from Majors Accounting on Thursday at a QuickBooks event, and she was saying she got 3 iPads out of that. Like that's just fantastic. You know, for the sake of spending a bit of time on the community where you do get some genuine insights, some great case studies, some great insights on how others are using the product. There is a league table, and you can see where you are on that league table at any time. But you can get anything from a pair of a pair of Dext socks through to pens, pads, an iWatch, iPad. Some of the best hoodies used to be on there. I got a really nice hoodie off there, like proper thumb holes, nice padded hood. I think I had it for 2 days before the wife stole it, and I've never seen it again.
That shows the quality there, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Like if my wife's getting prepared to wear something that's branded, then you know it's good quality and it's comfortable to wear. But yeah, like you can get some good stuff off that, and people were really incentivized to do it and to share the posts to get the points, to get the prizes. So it just proves, even in a boring, old-fashioned industry that is accounting allegedly, gamification works. So yeah, I'm excited to see the gamification come through, and I'm excited that it's not just targeting firm owners, it's targeting all pro advisors. So whether that's the firm owner through to whatever level of admin you've got QuickBooks certified so they can do some basic stuff on QuickBooks, they can all take part in this. And it's not all accounting focused. It's around different things, and you know, there's a bit of marketing in there and stuff like that. And I think that's just a great way to expose a team member to a different field that ultimately, if you're going to be a firm owner in the future, you're going to need to understand a bit about marketing, because ultimately you're a business owner. So if we can expose them to that and give them some basic understanding, that sets them up for the future. But also it might reveal, actually, I really enjoyed that. That's it becomes a bit of a passion and a project of theirs to then focus on. At which point, as employers, we're getting even more value out of our employees. So yeah, huge benefits from the gamification and rolling it out to everyone. I'm excited to see the full detail of it and to discuss it more and to see how the team embrace it going forwards. But having seen it work for Dext, and they've got the gift side nailed in Dext, and they've got the whole making sure people are interacting with their social media posts by giving them points nailed. I think QuickBooks could learn a very large amount from that. I'd argue their certification process and their training is very basic at Dext compared to QuickBooks. So if QuickBooks can learn what Dext have got really right and put that into the rest of what they've already got, I think it's a hugely beneficial thing to come out in the next few months.
It was interesting to see the passion behind it as well, wasn't there? We got to actually look and talk to people who have been building this process and you know, had an idea that they just had from the start, and see it come out to fruition. So that, I think that really just showed that there'll be a lot of excitement coming from it. And also, if I put my kind of training hat on, like you said there about the training side of things, I know from behind the scenes, it's given us as trainers the ability to have much more breadth to it. You know, it's going away from just having that core and then advanced certification, which is fantastic, and they're really meaningful and they're really useful. But we're always limited to time, and we're always limited to what we were able to actually deliver as a training product. With this, though, it gives us that chance to have multiple strands to it, multiple elements to it, and we can really go into detail about how to best use QuickBooks, which is what it's all about. And I know, you know, the rest of the team and myself, we're really excited to be able to kind of bring some stuff in like that. So yeah, no, absolutely loved it. We also got to see some of the kind of new innovations, which we can't wait to talk about, as we've said before. But it was also good to kind of just get that opportunity to give feedback there and then, wasn't it? Like, I know you were able to give some really crucial feedback to it, and we all were. And then at the end, we were also given the opportunity to talk to basically the whole room about feedback and how we're doing and everything else. And I think, you know, they were definitely, even like the head of UK QuickBooks, so Joe Lawn and everyone else, we were seeing them writing stuff down, weren't we? You know, Nick Williams was there writing stuff down as well. You know, proof's going to be in the pudding, but it looks like they were using that opportunity, using that time accordingly, which was good to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always dubious of any big companies that say they're going to change path and change tack and start focusing on something else. But I always think that if you're going to do that, when you've got a change of leadership is the time to do it. You know, Joe Lawn seems to be very passionate about accountants, focused on accountants. And if that's, you know, if we've got an accounting council out of this already, where they seem to have taken on a lot of our feedback from uncontrolled channels, shall we say. So like people are just feeding back to them constantly, but they've taken a lot of that on board, and we've seen huge improvements in some of the products that are coming out because of our feedback in a non-structured way. So to have that now in a structured manner can only be a good thing. And yeah, I will give Jo Lawn the chance to prove that she is true to her word and that her focus is accountants. Like, we can all stand up on the stage and say we're going to do something, whether we do or not, it's a different matter. But you know, there's no track record of her in the UK running UK QuickBooks, so let's give her a chance to prove that she is going to do what she says she's going to do. And at this moment in time, I feel that she is working towards delivering what she wants to deliver.
Yeah, and with Nick Williams being, you know, effectively the right-hand man sort of idea, and having that product lead and everything else, it's looking positive, isn't it? I mean, he's very much focused on accountants, so yeah, it gives us an opportunity. And you know, I know from some of the feedback we've already given that there is some, you know, some changes are coming soon. So yeah, it's going to be good to see that. Wonderful. All right. Okay. So that's exciting, isn't it? And we can't wait to tell you a little bit more. I know we've been a little bit vague on some of the announcements and everything else, but you know, it is for good reason. And I promise you that when we are allowed to talk, and we'll be talking your ears off about those features. So the next bit we want to talk about is how it seems like, and to be honest, I thought this was already the case, but you know, we've had an article on Accountancy Age. That must means it's true now. So if it's written on Accountancy Age or any of the other publications, and finally it's true. But UK accounting firms doubled down on school recruit amid talent war. So I'm pretty sure everyone's aware at the moment of the difficulty that we've got in recruitment these days. And it says that the way to evade the talent crisis is basically to go in and to make sure that we get the school recruits in from day one, looking at things like apprenticeship schemes and items like that to really encourage them, to bring them in and to mold them into the training that you would like your recruits to be. For me, this has been how we've always had to do it, especially in Bofix. Like we've never had that luxury of being able to rely on recruitment firms to be able to bring us in the talent that we've needed. So we've had to kind of always force go down it. Now, my question to you, Johann, and how you're been or your experience has been, is it's all well and good us targeting as an accounting firm and trying to encourage people to come through the apprenticeship schemes. But ultimately, for me, I feel like the best place or the most impactful place of doing that is your accounting profession bodies. So you've got AAT, you've got ICAW, you've got ACCA, you've got the Scottish equivalent. I've forgotten what it's called. ICAS, is it maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. But those are the places where realistically, if this is going to work, that's got to be coming from them. How's your experience been with this? Is this something you've been doing before, or is this something you've ever ever kind of had problems with in the past?
My overall concern about this whole thing is the firms that have got the resources, money, and time to go into schools, the credibility for schools to let them in, to talk to their students, are they really the firms that you want advertising and promoting accountancy of the future? Because I'd argue they're probably not. Like, these are big firms that have archaic processes, and someone's going to try and do me for slander for this, but I don't care. They can join the line. But like, they're pushing overtime. They're making, pushing study at your own time, at your own pace, at home. They're going for apprenticeships because they want cheap labor. Like, these are not the firms that are out there going unlimited holidays, work from home as much as you like, flexible working hours, you choose your own career paths within our business. If you're interested in this, we will support you with that.
Yep.
They're not the firms that do that. They're the firms that go, we'll take you from school, we'll put you into an apprenticeship, you'll sit in this cubicle and you're going to do bank reconciling for the next 2 years. And that's all you're going to do. Then you're going to spend a year doing VAT reports, and that's all you're going to do. There's no wonder there's people dropping out left, right, and centre because they think it's boring.
Mm.
If we could, if we can get young people into proactive, industry-leading firms, that doesn't mean they're in the top 10 or top 100 firms. They're just proactive, modern-run businesses. Then we might be able to help get them into the industry and keep them. At the moment, we're piling in high volumes of people at apprenticeship levels and stuff because mum and dad say, "Oh, go be an accountant. That'll be a good, steady job. You'll always need an accountant." And life's miserable because you're just doing the same thing for 2 years. Until we get the running of our own firms properly nailed to make it enticing and exciting for young people to come in, then they're not going to be interested in us. They are going to go out and do whatever else their mates are doing. Like, I know there's a drop off of people taking up accounting at universities and colleges.
Yeah, which is understandable, really, isn't it? It's not,
it's a dry topic.
Exactly.
And to be fair, the best employees I've ever had are ones that have learned on the job, not through college and university where they've divulged the textbook. They can answer the questions in the right order, but as soon as you put them in front of a person that's got a business, they clamp up and they're useless. What we need is a better way of getting people into the industry and on the job training, but in a real diverse way, so that we're not just going, well, you can't do anything until you've got bank reconciling nailed, and that's going to take you 2 years of sitting in a cubicle. We need to have those people out doing client meetings, shadowing client managers or account managers, whatever you want to call them, from day one. Like, they've got to see what the bigger picture is. And when you're just blinkered, just processing bank reconciling, it's boring. And so I wonder, yes, we've seen a drop off people doing the courses, but how many people actually enter the industry and drop out within a year or two? And actually, how many of those drop out because they've just been poorly led, poorly managed, and just put in a pigeonhole, and that's it. That's all they do.
Yeah, it's that pigeonhole status that really winds me up. And I think that's the bit where you get such a big difference in terms of what people perceive of what an accounting career can be. You basically pigeonholed into whatever the need of the practice is at that point in time. If they need payroll, if they need auditing, if they need whatever they need resource for at that point, you're pigeonholed into then. And then really, from your point of view, it's look at the drawers where your career takes you, doesn't it? Like, that isn't going to entice younger people to really want to stay in the accountancy profession. We've been trying. I know we've done it ourselves, haven't we? In some initiatives, and it's about trying to make sure that we're showcasing accounting for what it should be. We're trying to push business advisory, and we keep saying this as a sexy word, but ultimately we should be pushing that from day one, shouldn't we? Like, these younger people that are coming in, they're going to be the future of what business advisory can be. They're not just coming in because of their skill set of, like you said, bank reconciliations or getting the best VAT returns, done in the shortest amount of time, or whatever the skill set is of certain workforce. They're coming in with the opportunity and hopefully the appetite to be able to go in and problem solve. And I think that's where we can show accountancy as its best light. The idea that it is problem solving, it is helping clients, it is giving opportunities to help small businesses. Like we've said before on this show, and we'll say it a lot of times, when you look at recruitment and you look at trying to bring people in your own practice, sometimes empathy is one of the highest bits that you want to be looking out for. Like, if you can find someone who cares about small businesses and wants to help them succeed, well, that's a massive part of helping and getting them interested in accountancy and wanting, and that person's going to be around for the long haul. We can't, like you said, we can't be sending in people or firms in there that's going to be trying to say how it's so great to file VAT returns, because ultimately, like, that's not exciting. It's not joyful, is it? But if you can go in and tell people that actually you're giving the opportunity to help small businesses grow and prosper and finding solutions for them and problem solving, then that has to be exciting, doesn't it? And that's where we should be pushing it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, until the big boys catch up, like, the industry's in trouble, because the smaller firms like ourselves, we haven't got the resources, the capacity, or the money to invest in taking on waves of apprenticeships, etc. We need to rely on the big firms to do that, to get people into our industry. But we need the big firms to be using the latest tech, the latest processes, the latest softwares. Otherwise, people will be bored and walk away.
Yeah, 100%. And also, it's not just it's not just time for us and capacity. It's, as a smaller firm now, we get to look at a bigger geographical area. Gone in the days when there was one or two accounting firms in each town, city, or whatever it's going to be, and it was which one of those were you going to choose. Nowadays, because of working from home, because of that, we get to open our doors up to a much wider geographical area, doesn't it? So, as a small accounting firm, are we supposed to go to the 50 odd that are in our catchment area now? That, or if you're nationwide, you have to go to every single school and try and pitch it there. So, yeah, it's much more difficult for the likes of us. That's why, and I know, people are trying to change it. Rachel, who's shouted out here, and great shout out to the work she's done so far. She's trying to push AAT to be more, say the right words and everything else. As part of ICAW Small Practice Committee, I'm trying to help and guide that way of doing it as well. And we're trying to do little things, but like you said, we need the big boys to step up and bring it to the plate, and then those accounting professions then can see like a much more worthwhile career choice, and not just because accounting is quite high up the alphabet that gets spotted more than because I'm sure that's how some of the people get into the industry. It's like, let's go down the list. I'll stop at accounting, I'll do.
Yeah. So, as you said about empathy as well, like, you can't get into my leadership team and have a role in my leadership team if you've not run your own business at some point in your career. That is just a rule we have, so that my team have always got empathy with all the big decisions that are being made. Anything we do, it's like, how would we have felt as business owners about that decision? Would that have helped us or hindered us? So people coming out of college and university with these qualifications, that's all well and good, but unless you can prove empathy towards a small business owner, it's not going to get you anywhere. Like, I'd put more value on, and I think you and I have both said this to university students directly, that we would put more value on people that tell us that they've been watching YouTube videos and they really like this business coach method, or they've been listening to podcasts and these are the relevant topics of the day, blah, 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 rather than someone comes in that goes, I've got this certificate. And it's like, cool. Doesn't just means you know where to put the right answers into a box. That doesn't mean you understand business. It doesn't mean you can empathize with people. So yeah, my concern is it's the wrong people trying to get people into the industry, and the dropout rates are going to be too high here.
Yeah, because as you already said, like, county is such a diverse area, and if we're just going to be pigeonholing them into audit, for example, which is where most of the the big boys just push them into, then realistically, from a skill set point of view, what are they going to come out with that's going to be useful for the likes of us? Like, an ex auditing, doesn't matter how good they were at auditing XYZ, from our point of view, from all the skill sets we're looking for, that's not quite going to work for us. So they will then be pigeonholed for the rest of their career into being auditing, and maybe maybe sidetracking into more of the one. So yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's definitely needs something that we need to fix at, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that with the more recruits coming through, it gives us an opportunity to bring it in. Paul comes in and says, I like taking an apprentice, but it's difficult to find constant work for them, especially during the quiet months as a small practice. Yeah, I can't sympathize with that because I don't have quiet time ever, but I do understand where you're coming from there, Paul. I do think it's one of those, because especially in their early days as an apprentice, you do need to spend a lot of time with them. You do need to make sure, nurture them, and give them that time. So there is a lot of time investment in each and every apprentice that you're going to bring through. So I can definitely understand that one. Yeah, do you actually bring apprentices on at the moment, Jan? Is that something you're actively doing, or?
We keep looking at it. The problem we've got in Scotland is apprenticeships are very poorly funded and supported compared to England. So if we were based in England, yes, we probably would do more apprenticeships. So like at the time when the government were pushing apprenticeships, I think, Aaron, you'd have been offered £5,000 to bring someone in to spend on equipment, setting them up, etc. There was no support ever whatsoever like that in Scotland. So we weren't incentivized to take on apprenticeships. The biggest headache for us is to make an apprenticeship work and be profitable, in effect, for us, because ultimately we're running a business. We need to see a profit out of this, whether it's today, tomorrow, or in 5 years' time. To make it efficient, you probably want 2 or 3 apprentices with one person that's just full-time dealing with those apprentices with a client bank. So that means that someone's not. So we've got three apprentices who are costing us money but not overly productive, and we've got one person that's costing us a lot more money who's less productive than they are now because they're now spending loads of time training apprentices. There's got to be a scalability there. It's got to be an efficient and cost-effective use of resources. And yeah, at the moment that we're struggling to get to that point where, I could bring in an apprentice and move someone's workload around a bit.
Yeah.
But then to make that affordable, we need to grow the client base. Well, to grow the client base, I need more capacity, and I've just taken capacity away from my team to train an apprentice. So it's a chicken and egg situation. But yeah, we would love to be able to go out and train apprentices and have them in our team. The biggest headache we've got is us as a firm understanding all the rules. We've got to do workplace risk assessments. Well, most of our guys work from home, so that means I've got to do a risk assessment of their home, and then I've got to make sure they've got enough contact time to get their training in there. And I've not really got the people in my team at the moment that have got that drive or passion to train and develop someone else. So that would then fall on me. And we were just comparing diaries earlier, Aaron, off air, and I couldn't wholeheartedly turn around and say I can give this apprentice the time they need to learn what they need to learn. And then every governing body that you try and put them through for different qualifications will say, well, for the person responsible for the apprentice has got to have X qualifications, X experience, and it just becomes a minefield. So we've just kind of gone, well, we'd love to, but is it practically achievable?
Yeah. And that's a huge shame, isn't it? That's the bit where it becomes a bit of a kicker, doesn't it? Because the whole, for me, the beauty of being able to bring apprenticeships on is you get that opportunity to mold and bring them into, doing stuff a different. We've said it already, like we don't want to be just coming in and doing it, the old-fashioned way that's been done for 30 odd years. We want to look at things in a different way, look at things more efficiently, look at things in a way where we can give the chance for our team to have that capacity to be able to do more good than just filing a VAT return. Let's find ways where we can speed that process up, but then be able to bring in opportunities to actually help clients look at cash flow and everything else that comes with it. And the only way we've been able to achieve that is by being able to mold people into that mindset, into that opportunistic look at it. If we were to bring people in, especially in our area, when we, in our local area, very, very old school practices that dominate the kind of recruitment and everything else. And if we're looking to bring people on from those, it would have we would have trying to completely change the way they've been doing it for the past X amount of years. And it was going to prove difficult. So yeah, it's a shame that there isn't that incentive up in Scotland to do it, because like you said, for us, we do get that incentive, and it does makes it more worthwhile. It's not perfect, like there's still a lot of effort we have to do, and there's a lot of work that we've got to bring in, but it is that better opportunity to at least give us a fighting chance to make it work. So no, that's a massive shame, and it's a lost opportunity for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, I could go on for hours on various political views of it all, but yeah, ultimately we're not incentivized to do it. We need we shouldn't need incentivizing, I agree, but at the same time, the amount of work, time and resources we need to put into it, it's got to be a logical business decision. And at this moment in time, it's just not.
Yep. And yeah, and until we find a way to make that the case, it's never going to change, is it? So unfortunately. Okay, let's change a little bit of our tack for now, and let's just quickly go through some of these questions that we've had. We've got two really good juicy questions that come through, and then that gives us a chance to finish the day off on a bit of a lighter note. So first of all, Dylan Rees asked the following: I'm getting near the VAT threshold as an eBay reseller. Any tips or advice? And I'm not going to avoid it, as I can't claim from my cash purchases. Oh, Dylan, we get this question a lot. We've actually got a shameless plug here, but there is actually some videos on my channels just to give you some incentives or give you some opportunities to look at it. But yeah, we feel your pain. For anyone who doesn't understand the pain that Dylan's going to go through here, a lot of the online resellers or online marketplaces now are doubling down on VAT and a self-assessment income tax as well, basically because HMRC are putting pressure on them. So whereas before you could be kind of maybe a little bit loose in terms of, are you able to hit that 85k threshold, and can you just sit there a little bit? Unfortunately, with eBay and the rest of them, we don't know what their threshold hits, so they have their own internal threshold as to what you hit before they want to see a VAT registration number. And the reason for that is because eBay and the rest of those selling platforms out there have that, or they know and they have that fear that you're not just selling on that one platform. You may be selling on other platforms at the same time. So if they had an 85,000 threshold or whatever they want to put as their number, that might not be enough to hit whatever the other selling platforms you're on. So your problem you have with eBay and all these ones is you may well be happily sat at the 60, 50,000 threshold, but you may trigger their internal requirement for you then to have to actually provide a VAT return, forcing you to go VAT registered before you can. Because there are various ways in which you could make sure that you do keep below the threshold. You can kind of work your business that way. You could try and do that. But ultimately, if you don't know what this quote unquote threshold is going to be, and there's an ambiguity to what that number is, it's always going to be really, really difficult to run a business based on trying to keep below a number that you don't know what it's going to be. So we do see this problem a lot at the moment. Now, the other thing, so people can know that why, especially for eBay resellers and people using eBay, majority of the time that you're trying to sell products and services that you can't just go and add 20% onto, because if you just add 20% onto everything you sell, well, then people are going to just search for the next cheapest item, and you'll never be able to make the numbers work for you. So you're always going to be in a position where VAT, unfortunately, is going to hit you quite hard. Our biggest tip and the way that we try and push, and it's not an easy solution, we need to try and smash that 85,000 threshold and try and get much higher into the 100k kind of turnover to be able to make it worthwhile. The other thing to look at is there are some schemes out there. So there's what's called global margin scheme, which is a VAT scheme to try and help you. The fact that you can't, as you said there, reclaim that VAT on your purchases. There's opportunities like that. And there's also the flat rate scheme as well that might be applicable, might be a way in which you can actually do it. So there are schemes designed to help you in your particular situation, Dylan, but it is a tricky one, and it's something that I said, plenty of videos to look out for. Yeah, have you had similar problems with your clients? Is it kind of one of those big issues at the moment?
Not as much with online retailers, because that's your field of expertise. We've seen it a lot more in construction, where they've done quite well, as they've just been the local gas fitter, the local plumber, the local electrician that goes around to Mrs. Smith's house and does a job. But because of demand, they've suddenly got really close to the VAT threshold. And they've got two choices. One is they go VAT, well, they've got three choices. One is they go VAT registered, put their prices up by 20% because they're now VAT registered, and lose out to on every job that they quote because they're now 20% more expensive than all their competitors who aren't VAT registered yet. The second option is to put their prices up by a smaller percentage, taking into account the VAT they're going to reclaim, so that they can offset some of the price increase, but you're still going to lose out on a majority of jobs because you're more expensive than the people that aren't VAT registered. And the third choice is you carry on as you are, go VAT registered, don't put your prices up, and know you're going to take a 20% hit on your profit. Now, you might be able to do that if you've been pricing well and you're profitable. If your profit's 30, 40%, it might be affordable, but it's most cases it's not. So yeah, like normally when we see someone in the trades industry get to the point where they're VAT-able, they then also we tend to see them do a bit of a change in their audience and their ideal client. They go from dealing with Mrs. Smith's boiler to dealing with businesses and contract work where they're going to be subject to VAT, but they can claim it back because the people they're dealing with are the bigger companies that have got VAT registration themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously not an ideal, not an option for the online reseller unless they start buying their goods from a VAT registered company.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Dylan's buying things in cash from other places that aren't VAT registered, so that really isn't a huge option for them.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with the £85,000 limit.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's too easy to cruise under it. Like, I have a client who has said, look, up to £85,000, I can be profitable enough to live a lifestyle I want to live. Once I get to that, whether it takes me 3 months or 12 months or 9 months, I'm not going to go past that. I'm going to close my business down. And so he's a roofer. So he basically runs a season now of he'll do work during the winter because it's busy. That's demand time for storm and flood damage. He then normally has his spring off, does a bit of work in the summer because it's nicer to work in the summer, but he tailors it around what he wants to do with his holidays. And then he's back into the winter. Like, he doesn't have to push for work. He doesn't have to stress, have I got enough work coming in? He's got more than enough. He's turning it away because he doesn't want to cross that threshold.
Yeah.
So he's basically become a seasonal business. Whereas if we drop the VAT threshold in the whole country down to 10k turnover, and pretty much everyone that's in business then would have to be registered, well, not only would that help prevent this, I'm not going to go past this 85k mark, it would help the economy grow, and we could potentially reduce, because of the huge increase in VAT returns, we could reduce the VAT rate that we pay. Instead of 20%, it could go down to 10%, and the revenue would maintain the same income because there's more businesses paying it. So yeah, this 85k limit is really challenging for a lot of businesses, and it stumps economic growth.
Exactly, and I completely agree. But then the other part of the argument and other people pushing for is, why is it not growing, and why is it not going even higher? And that, it's going to
Yeah.
cause its
Why is
own.
it not growing with inflation?
Exactly. So yes, it's one of those I think we'll be coming back to time and time again. My final bit of advice for you, Dylan, as well, is if you are close to that VAT threshold, is get yourself VAT registered ASAP. I know some horror stories out there where people have been taking 6 months to get their VAT registration through for various issues, problems, HMRC, backlog, all this sort of stuff that comes through. And unfortunately, eBay, if they want you to be VAT registered, then they will just close your shop. Well, in fairness, they don't close your shop, but they won't let you put any more listings on there at all, which could really stump your shop going forward. So yeah, if you are close to that threshold, do make sure you get yourself out there, trying to get your VAT threshold number sorted. We got another question. So Seamus asks the following: I'm growing a part-time business, making a loss with some part-time employment under PAYE. What's the best way to deal with business subsistence and travel expense that I pay myself? Should I claim for the business as a loan and building up debt, or offset again income tax in annual PAYE return? Johan, you want to have a stab at that one?
Yeah, I'm going to make an assumption that you're running a sole trader business here and not a limited company. But either way, whether it's sole trader or limited, I would be registering all of my costs of running that business. And then how we treat that at the end is entirely open to a discussion with the accountant and the business owner. If it's a limited company, it's just going to be put down as a director's loan, which will be paid back to the director at a point of time when the business's cash flow can afford to do so. If it's a sole trader, then it's a question of, do we carry the loss forward? Is that going to be more beneficial based on your personal plans? Do we offset it against previous year's taxes? Like it's one of those there's so much of a bigger picture here that you really need to sit and have a chat with an accountant so we understand all your incomes and all your outgoings, what your objectives of this part-time business is, what your objectives of the part-time employment are, so that we can make sure we're giving you the right advice on that one for you personally. But you've got a few different options. But either way, yes, record what you're covering personally, because the business technically owes you that money back.
Yeah, and then that's the important thing, isn't it? Is getting in that mindset of actually recording it in the first place. I think a lot of people kind of forget that whole aspect, that if you haven't recorded it in the first place, then how are we going to know? Like, yeah, there is a chance for us to kind of go back and maybe do a bit of retrospectively look at bank statements and credit card statements or whatever it's going to be. But actually, it's going to be far easier to make that decision and be able to make a worthwhile case if we can see the information in the first place. So, yeah, and like you said, there's loads of reason, and the fact we've got changes in rates coming forward. So maybe it is a limited company, and maybe that's going to affect you going forward. Tax rates changing also. There's a lot of considerations now. It's not clear cut of let's do X, let's do Y. I think having to look at the whole solution is going to be the best way. So yeah. Great question though, and really appreciate both of those questions coming through.
The only thing I would add on to that one is, regardless of the tax position, if you're growing this part-time business with the plan of going full-time with it, and you're not recording the true costs of running this business, how can you decide when the business can afford for you to go full-time with it and to drop off the part-time employment? So if right, for me to work in this business full-time without any employment income, I need to achieve £25,000 sales or whatever it is, but you're not taking into account the £5,000 worth of travel and subsistence costs you're picking up a year that you're covering yourself at the moment, then you're going to make a decision and find yourself short very quickly. So yeah, just regardless of the tax position, keep those records accurate and a true reflection of the true cost of running that business.
Yeah, and we would recommend something like QuickBooks, or
we would
Xero, or some of the others are out there. We have to be unbiased, don't we? So
yeah, we would recommend you using accounting software.
Yes, yeah. And which one you choose is up to you. Oh, and Paul says he has clients that spend 6 months here and 6 months in Thailand, living like kings on the income generated over 6 months here. Absolutely, yeah. And that's what we're and how damaging is that to the UK economy? So that's where it comes through, doesn't it? So yeah, and that's the precedent we've set ourselves with the current VAT rate. All right, okay, we've got 10 minutes left, so I wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit more light-hearted. So as I said in the beginning of it, we talked about the fact that Valentine's Day is tomorrow. So what if you've left it to the last moment? What is your options? What can you go out there to help accountants maybe get the present of their dreams? Well, I'll let you know a little secret. Going out there at the moment is let me make sure I get the right screen coming up. But there is the opportunity to use technology to help us going forward. And with technology, one of the ones that's talking about a lot is the Chat GPT. So anyone who doesn't know, this is more of an AI-driven search engine, which gives you a much more generic or much more language-based response. So I thought we'll pose a question live on the chat to say, what is the best present for an accountant on Valentine's Day? And we'll see what their answer is. So while it's kind of going through and doing it live there, Johann, have you been using ChatGPT for anything? Have you found anything useful out of it so far?
I've played very lightly with it. So I've asked important questions like, why is QuickBooks better than Xero? Those important philosophical questions have been asked. And you get a very sat on the fence, non-biased response with... Xero, QuickBooks may not necessarily be better than Xero.
Yeah.
Here are the points that Xero have features. Here are the features that QuickBooks has. And it's like, right, okay. So yeah, I've played with it very lightly, but nowhere near to the point that I could have. It's something I'm keeping an eye on, and I will be potentially playing with a bit more. Like I'm still currently trying to write my session for QuickBooks Connect. So I might ask it a few questions and see what if it comes back with some better responses than I would. So yeah.
That's it. I'm excited for the next stage of it. Bing's already, so Bing is a Google or the rival to Google from Microsoft World, their search engine. And there's an integration with ChatGPT or equivalent there. And what that opens up is the fact that it can now start searching the internet. And some of the responses coming back from there are absolutely mind-boggling. So, yeah, it could be a case where Google becomes less relevant going forward. But let's look at the question that has been posed to it. So what's the best present for an accountant on Valentine's Day? And GPT has come up with this particular response. Valentine's Day gifts for accountant can be both romantic and professional. Okay, here's a few ideas. A romantic getaway. Treat your accountant partner to a relaxing trip or weekend getaway. This is a great way to escape the daily routine, spend quality time together. Any recommendations you got there, Johann, that you would throw in for point number one?
A trip to Mauritius. That's my getaway. Yeah. So that's my ultimate stop. But any city breaks in Europe are always very good. Cologne's fantastic for a weekend. So is Rome. So yeah, no, I don't disagree with point one. So
yeah, point one's a good one. Professional books and tools. Accountants are always looking to improve their skills and knowledge, so consider gifting them a book on accounting or the latest accounting software. What's your point on that one?
I mean, put it this way, I have a wish list on Amazon, and on my wish list is a series of books that my wife can buy me at any time she likes, whether that's birthday, Christmas, or Valentine's Day. So yeah, again, it's not wrong. And that's a fantastic book that Aaron's holding from that Ash Beeston has written, Professional Tips and Workarounds for QuickBooks Online. Great book for any avid QuickBooks user. It's quite the exercise book.
Yeah,
it's not one of those books you dreaded a teacher throwing at you in the classroom, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know if it's romance necessarily, but I absolutely love this book. So yeah, I'd highly recommend that one. Get yourself on Amazon now for that one. Personalized stationery, Johann. I mean, get your accountant partner personalized stationery, such as a customized notepad or personalized business card. What would you say if that's what you received?
I would argue that's the problem is the software providers are doing that for us. So yeah, hang on, let me find it. Yeah, so I've got some post-it notes here from QuickBooks. So nice reminders that you're seriously awesome. I know I am. I don't need reminding, but every now and then it's nice to see a reminder of it. So yeah, that most accountants and bookkeepers, when you talk to them on LinkedIn, will get excited that they've had a stationary delivery or something's branded, and get far too excited walking through a stationary shop. And I'm there. I'm with them. Like, I don't use pen and paper very much anymore. I'm more of an iPad and iPencil kind of guy, but I still enjoy going to my conferences and walking away with some nice new gimmicky stationery.
Yeah, completely agree. Same point on the next one. A nice pen. An accountant spends a lot of time writing. Do we these days? But yeah, okay. So high quality pen could be a useful and appreciated gift. And then the final one, the one I like the most, a custom made calculator. Give your accountant a custom made calculator with their name or initials on it.
Something like that.
Oh yeah, we're both on the same one, same wavelength there. So yeah, I mean,
calculator.
Maybe there is room for your name on the back. You know what I mean? Back in school, we used to get the Tipex and put it through there. So, really go to town on that one. But yeah, I mean, I think they've got a spot on there, haven't they? I mean, what else could we ask for? I know what would be on yours. Yours is anything Elgato related, isn't it? Would be a
yeah. That's normally got a price tag beyond a Valentine's Day gift, if I'm honest. So
that is a problem.
Yeah, I think the wife just looks at me a bit bemused now when there's a new delivery. It's got Elgato written on it. It's like, oh, not us again. So, but yeah.
And then finally for today as well, just so we end on a thing. If those gifts are out of question, if you haven't got time to get there for you, then don't worry. QuickBooks have got you covered. So I need to give the social media team a bit of a what do you call it on this one? Oh, wrong screen. Oh no, it's the right screen. So their social media campaign, they've already got pre-printed it's for you, Valentine's Day cards. So just give your opinion on this one. So we've got a lot of interest in you there. Yeah, very good.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Very current with the interest rates.
Exactly. We've been together for 40 years. Many happy returns with a little tax return on there. Not as keen on that one, but you can see where they're going with it.
Not loving that one.
No. Leave you bat chance. So a bit of a pun on VAT.
Very good.
Yeah. And is that eggs there we see, or is that money? Oh, it is money, unfortunately. Is it? No, yeah. They could have put eggs there just to really bring back
tie it into the chicken advert.
Exactly. Let's get physical. Yeah,
risque.
Yeah, I'm not 100% bought on that one, but I can see where they're going with it. I think there's one more. Late at night, I'll be your holding
company. Oh dear. Oh dear.
So shout out QuickBooks on that one for getting their cards in ready to go. So yeah, brilliant. And I think that's it.
Go warm up the printer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get that one sent over, and we go from there. All right, awesome. So yeah, anything you want to kind of talk about or promote for this week coming up?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've got to do a video and stick it out because we've just done another wave of updates for Client Engager, which are all out in the public domain as of last night. I'm a bit behind on my update videos there. But no, I'm office bound for the next week, basically. I've got 2 key team members off today and tomorrow, another one off Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm just about to support the team, whatever they need.
And based on last week, I bet you can't wait as well.
Oh,
Paul says, wife got me a personalized desk nameplate 1 year. Yeah, that's a cracking idea for Valentine's Day opportunity or creating. So again, thank you for everyone who's putting some comments in. It's been absolutely brilliant. Remember, if you want to listen to us live, then we go live at 8:30 a.m. each and every Monday morning. And we've kind of been talking in the background and making sure that we've got some contingency plans ahead, haven't we, Johann? So when that comes to fruition, we'll let you know more often. So keep that in mind. So we'll be making sure we're keeping on these 8:30 trains for Mondays. And also don't forget that if you want to listen to a podcast, then our podcast goes live on Wednesday. So if you haven't been able to listen to us live, why not give us an opportunity? And that is it. That is this week's Ask the Accountant done and dusted. Hope everyone has a fantastic week ahead. And we look forward to seeing you next week at 8:30 a.m. if you're going to join us live, or we get to see us on the Wednesday. So with that, it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Cheers, everyone. Have a good week. Bye.